So, dear respected Thai, dear brothers and sisters, dear friends, good morning. Today is Sunday, the 28th of October, and we are in the Dharma Nectar Temple of Plum Village, Lower Hamlet. In this retreat, we have been looking into the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. And the Order of Interbeing was formed by Thai in the mid-1960s at the time of the Vietnam War. And there was a great need for some understanding and compassion in order to take care of the hatred and violence that was happening in the country. And the 14 mindfulness trainings, they have to do with how we live our daily lives, how we live in the world, how we respond to issues in the world, by our way of thinking, our attitude or our view. So these 14 mindfulness trainings, they help us to see very clearly the impact of our thinking, of our speaking and actions on our environment and on the world and on the way we live together. These trainings, they really express a mind of true love and the insight that happiness is not an individual matter. And they are the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing that was founded by Thai. But they can be practiced by anyone. You don't need to be an official member of the Order of Interbeing in order to practice the 14 mindfulness trainings. In fact, the more people that practice them, the better. So you may like to have a look at them, also by yourself, and study them, and to see in what way they resonate for you, especially in the light of the state of the world. The more I study these 14 mindfulness trainings, the more my heart rejoices, because I see a way out. I see a way that can lead to healing and transformation, not just of myself, but of the whole of humanity. And that sort of lifts up my spirit and gives me a lot of joy. And these 40 mindfulness trainings, we are all capable of practicing them, of applying them in our daily life. And to practice these 14 mindfulness trainings, it's very good to have a sangha, a place of refuge, to do it together with others. Yeah. Because with the sangha we can share our joys and our difficulties, and we can excuse me, and interacting with others will reveal our habit energies. And as I said before, especially our habit energies of thinking. Thinking is the foundation of everything. Yeah? Whatever we say, whatever we do, we have already thought. Yeah? So becoming aware of our thinking and the inclination of our thinking is very important, because that's where the transformation starts. So it's very good to have a sangha to practice with. Or the sangha is like what we call a kalyana mitra. It means a spiritual friend. And a spiritual friend is somebody who knows how to skillfully point things out to us. A habit we have of speaking or acting that has its roots in our thinking. And they will be able to say it in a way that we can receive it. And that will help us to recognize the effect of our actions. So to have a Kalyana Mitra is very precious. On the other hand, do we know how to be a Kalyana Mitra? If we like to have a Kalyana Mitra, it is very good to first become our own Kalyana Mitra, to develop the qualities of a Kalyana Mitra in ourselves. So we can help ourselves and then we can help others also on this path. So these 14 mindfulness trainings, they help us to see very clearly the impact of our thinking, speaking and actions on our environment, the world, and how we live together. They are really guidelines for our everyday living. Most what we call precepts, they are prohibitions. And they begin with bodily actions. And the 14 mindfulness trainings, we used to call them precepts, now we call them trainings. Like we call the 5 precepts, the 5 mindfulness trainings also. The 14 mindfulness trainings begin with the mind. And the Noble Eightfold Path also begins with the mind. And this shows the importance that the Buddha gave to the mind, the actions of the mind. So the 14 mindfulness trainings, there are 3 categories. So the first category are the mindfulness trainings 1 to 7, and they concern primarily the mind. Yeah? And the second is the 8th and the 9th mindfulness trainings, and they concern speech. And from 10 to 14 is primarily our bodily actions. But our actions of mind, of course, and speech and body have the mind as the foundation. So when we practice these 14 mindfulness trainings, we are practicing to transcend our greed, our anger, our hatred, our delusion. And we cultivate compassion and wisdom. They also help us to look into and to understand the nature of interbeing of all that is. This means that nothing can exist by itself. Everything is because of many causes and conditions. We are because of many causes and conditions. We know that without the air, without water, without the earth, without fire, warmth, the sun, the moon, we can't live. Yeah. So we are because of many causes and conditions. And we are as we are because of many causes and conditions. We are as we are, how we have nourished ourselves, our body and our mind. When we wake up in the morning, and if our body and mind feels light, it is very likely we had a light meal the evening before. If we had a party the evening before, we may wake up not so fresh, right? And then we have something, we may even have something that's called a hangover. I don't know if anybody here still has those, but since we're all practicing very well. But just to be aware of how we nourish ourselves, with the food and the drink that we take in. What is the effect that this has on our body and our mind? You are what you eat. I would say we are what we eat, what we drink, what we think, what we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we touch. Because everything that we take in through our sense doors waters seeds in us. It waters seeds in our store consciousness. Store consciousness is that function of our consciousness that keeps everything. It holds all our potential. And our potential is what we call a seed. Yeah? We have the capacity to be happy. So we say we have a seed of happiness. We have the capacity to be joyful. We have a seed of joy. We also have the capacity to be angry. So we have a seed of anger. We have a seed of hatred. We have a seed of greed, a seed of discrimination. All of us have those potentials. We all have the same. But in some of us, some are stronger than others. And they are stronger because we may have inherited the strength of a seed from our parents or our grandparents or our ancestors, our society, our nation. And we have, out of ignorance, allowed certain seeds to be watered in us that would have been better not to be watered. And with the practice of mindfulness, we have a say in what seed will be watered in our store consciousness. And that is what we like to talk about a little bit today. And the practice of the mindfulness trainings, they help us to become aware of the seeds that are being watered in our store consciousness. So for me, they are a sort of empowerment. You know? Now I am empowered. It doesn't mean I have received them, so I am empowered. No, I have come in contact with them. I have read them. I've become aware of them. And I'm empowered now. Now I have a say in which seeds are going to be watered in my store consciousness. And the foundation of this here is the practice of mindfulness. And mindfulness means bringing body and mind together. You know? Often we will find that our body is here and our mind is there, wherever that there is. Maybe outside, or it may be at the other side of the globe, or who knows, on the moon. You know? But very, very far away. Could be in the past or in the future. Yeah? Or being carried away by something in the present. And mindfulness means to bring our mind there where our body is. It means here, wherever that here is. Yeah? To bring the mind home to the body. The home, our body is the first home of our mind. It is the home of our mind. Yeah? So to bring our mind home to the body. So maybe with the sound of the bell, we shall practice just that. As we hear the sound of the bell, and the sound of the bell is happening in the present moment. Like our body is also a happening. Our body is not static, it is a happening. Yeah? So the bell, which is a happening, helps us to bring our mind home to our body, to see what is happening in our body. So let us enjoy the sound of the bell and bring our mind home to our body, and maybe scan our body from the top of our head all the way down to the tip of our toes. And if anywhere in our body we find some tension, to acknowledge it, to acknowledge its presence, and to gently breathe with it for a moment before we continue scanning our body. To be with it and breathing it may soften the tension or whatever it is that you feel in your body. did the body scan. I was relaxing my body. And after I had finished the body scan, I sort of remained aware of my body. And at the same time, I became aware of what was happening around me. And I realized it's raining outside. It sounded so loud. Yeah? Because inside it was very quiet. Inside in the hall, and maybe also inside of my mind. So the rain sounded loudly. So when we bring our mind home to our body, we become aware of what is happening inside of our body, and we can take care of it. And we also become aware of what is happening around us. The mindfulness trainings give us an ethical way of life. Every training uses an ethical action, and that's an action that benefits everyone. And it is truly based on non-duality, on the fact that happiness is not an individual matter, and on compassion. And the 40 mindfulness trainings, we practice them to change ourselves, so we can bring about a change in society. And that society can go in the direction of understanding and compassion. And Thai says, by living a joyful and a mindful life. So the practice is not only mindful, to live mindfully, but also it leads us to live joyfully. So living mindfully is not a serious matter. And when we look at these trainings, we will see that the most important aspect of these trainings is never to abandon anyone. They're very inclusive. They don't leave anyone lying to the side of the road who's in need of help. So today, we would like to look at the 6th and the 7th mindfulness training. And we would like to look at them in the light of right diligence. And I will read the 6th mindfulness training, in case you don't have the text. And the 6th mindfulness training shows us how we can take care of our anger. Aware that anger blocks communication and creates suffering, we are committed to taking care of the energy of anger when it arises, and to recognizing and transforming the seeds of anger that lie deep in our consciousness. When anger manifests, we are determined not to do or say anything, but to practice mindful breathing or mindful walking to acknowledge, embrace, and look deeply into our anger. We know that the roots of anger are not outside of ourselves, but can be found in our wrong perceptions and lack of understanding of the suffering in ourselves and others. By contemplating impermanence, we will be able to look with the eyes of compassion at ourselves and at those we think are the cause of our anger, and to recognize the preciousness of our relationships. We will practice right diligence in order to nourish our capacity of understanding, love, joy, and inclusiveness, gradually transforming our anger, violence, and fear, and helping others to do the same. we are committed to taking care of the energy of anger when it arises. This is already a practice by itself. We may have gotten angry in the past, and somebody tells us, "You're angry," and we say, "I am not angry." No. I mean, in a way that it's clear that we are angry. So to recognize it, and to take care of it from the moment it arises. Sometimes we need somebody else to point out that we're angry. In the first instance, we may not recognize it. How can we recognize anger before it arises? First of all, we have to know that we have a seed of anger. It may not manifest very often, when it does, maybe very gently, but we do have a seed. And when causes and conditions are sufficient, it will arise. So we have these seeds in our store consciousness. And one of our practices is to not water the seed of anger in us. To avoid watering the seed of anger. Thai says we can ask others to help us. If there is something that maybe a loved one, a friend, or somebody in the Sangha does or says that touches, that waters our seed of anger, we can ask them, please know that when you say something in that way, or when you act in that way, it waters my seed of anger. Could you please support me by not watering my seed of anger? I'm happy to hear what you have to tell me, but could you find another way of telling me this? And if we ourselves can think of a way that we will be able to hear what somebody else wants to tell us, we can give them some suggestions. Maybe they can start by, "It is my perception that," starter, instead of "you do this." It is my perception. Maybe we can point out that we have our perception which may be wrong. Yeah? But I would like to share that perception with you anyway. And the best way to support others in interacting with us like that is to interact with them the way we would like them to interact with us. And again, for me, this is an empowerment. I can be part of this process. I am not just there as a victim of the interactions with others, but I can be part of this. So our seed of anger may be watered by what we hear, what others tell us. Yeah? We don't always can give input how other people tell us something. So what to do then? Yeah? Then it's good to take some time to reflect and to ask the question, is there any truth in what they say? This is what I try to practice. Is there truth in what they say? And sometimes the answer is, I don't see any truth. And sometimes the answer is maybe a little bit. So I'll just take that little bit. I do not need to take everything. I take that little bit. And I can look and I can see what is the root of my action that our friend gave some feedback about. Where does it come from? Maybe before I continue, we can have another sound of the bell. Maybe that way of responding was also the way of responding of our mother or our father. And we have inherited, we are continuing our mother and our father in that way. And as we continue to practice, we realize we're not only transforming ourselves, we're also practicing transforming our parents. We are their continuation. Whatever we transform also for our parents and for our ancestors. If at the root of our action there was fear, maybe our parents had fear. Maybe our father, our mother, had a strong seed of fear. And maybe fear was the root of our action that our friend gave some feedback about. And fear always has to do with the unknown. We don't fear the past, we fear the future. We do not know what is going to happen in the future. It is unknown. And whatever is unknown, we fear. Is it going to be of benefit to me or not? Is it going to be good for me or not? I find the best way of taking care of fear as it comes up is to remain firmly established in the present moment. Because in the present moment, I can see what is happening. I do not know what will happen in the next moment, but when the next moment becomes the present moment, I can see what is happening. And the image I have is, I walk through a tunnel, or let's keep it a tunnel, that's what I usually use. I walk through a tunnel and it's dark. And I do not know what's in the tunnel. But I can touch the wall of the tunnel with my hands, and of course with my feet. So I touch the wall, so I get to know what is happening right now. What is the present moment like right now? And I'm aware of my feet on the ground, and I know what it is like. And then very carefully, I put my feet forward, and then my foot touches the ground in front of me, that I'm already in the present moment then. And I know I can take that step. If I put my foot and there's nothing, I still don't know. And I won't take the step because the fear is still there. So take my foot back and I try a little bit to the right or the left. If you see what I mean. So I found out, if I have this image, if I walk, if I always stay in the present moment and don't think there's light at the end of the tunnel and rush towards the end, I may fall in a hole. I may stumble over something because I'm not in the present moment. I'm trying to run to the future to know what's at the end of the tunnel. But I have the whole tunnel to go through. Yeah. So if I stay in the present moment, and the future comes to us, if you like. We don't have to run to the future. So I wait for the next moment to come, and I'm in that moment, and I can see what is happening, and I can respond in an appropriate way. I cannot respond in an appropriate way to the future. I do not know exactly what's going to happen. I can make plans, yes, we have to make plans. But we may need to adjust the plans when that future becomes the present moment. So that was the seed of fear. And another way, when there's fear in me, there's fear present right now. We have a practice, breathing in, I am aware fear is present in me now. Breathing out, I take good care of the fear, I embrace it. Or I smile to my fear. Maybe it's my practice, I'm not yet very good at doing this, and I don't necessarily succeed. It doesn't calm my fear. So then I bring my mind home to my body, because I know what's in my mind is also manifested in my body, in some way or another, in some place in my body. So I bring my mind home to my body, and I do a body scan, as we did just now. And when I find a strong sensation, a physical sensation, I think that's my fear. And I can breathe with this physical sensation. I bring my mind to that part of my body, and I breathe while I just stay with it. At times I feel I go back to a story, but then I'm no longer with the physical sensation. So then I bring my mind back to the physical sensation every time I notice I've been carried away again by the story. And slowly, slowly, by being with it, this sensation kind of becomes softer, and it feels like it melts away. And then, miracle oh miracle, the fear is no longer present in my mind as a mental formation. And then a very important point. At that point, we should not go back to the story and bring it back, because that brings immediately the fear back. Leave the story. And first, we need to calm ourselves, to find stability, maybe to practice walking meditation, to come back to our steps as they touch the earth. In, out, out, out. So that we become really very firmly established in the present moment. We may water some seeds of joy, of happiness, as a counterbalance to the fear. And then this may take a few days or maybe weeks, when we feel now we have enough stability, enough calm, enough peace, enough joy, happiness, to look at the fear. What is it that I am afraid of? The unknown, yes. But what is it about this unknown? And we may find that we're going to go on a long journey to a country we don't know. We do not know what we will find there. And once we know what we are afraid of, it is much easier to be with that fear, and we also will be able to do something about it. If we travel to another country, we may find out by asking other people or by reading what we could expect when we go there. And at the same time, we continue to strengthen our capacity to dwell in the present moment, to be part of the journey as we journey, to journey along with the journey and to not to run ahead of the journey, so that we can respond to every situation we encounter from a place of calm and clarity. We were speaking also about anger. So to see what is the root of our anger. But first, the mindfulness training advises us not to do or say anything. This is quite a practice. Not to do or to say anything. Yeah. But we also get immediately the practice to do. Return to our breathing and mindful walking. And to acknowledge that we're angry. Yeah. And then to look deeply. Often, the roots of our anger may be found in ourselves. We may have wrong perceptions. Somebody said something, and we think they said it on purpose to hurt us. They were unskillful. They may not have been wanting to hurt us. They may just have been unskillful. They may not even have known that what they were going to say would hurt us. They said it to somebody else and nothing happened. So why would it hurt somebody else? Why would it hurt us? We may also not understand that somebody else may have said or done something out of their own suffering. I think we know ourselves very well. When we suffer, it is not so obvious and not so easy to practice loving speech. You know? It takes some practice to practice loving speech at all times. Especially when our suffering considers the person we are speaking to. Maybe they upset us. We suffer, and when we speak to them, there is no loving kindness. This practice of not do or say anything, especially when we're angry, can be quite challenging, because how do we do this? Now, we live in a community and then we get angry with somebody. Don't we say anything to the person at all? At all times? You know? That is maybe not the best way of not saying anything. So how can we keep on interacting but not address the issue that made us angry? You know? For me, that is what is meant by not to say anything. Otherwise, if we all would, in our community, we're angry with somebody, upset, so I'm not speaking to that person, maybe we would be a very silent community. We all get angry sometimes. So it's a real practice to keep on communicating, in a civil way, if you like, mindfully, but not address the issue until we have calmed down and maybe looked into ourselves what actually happened for us. Here in Plum Village, when we are in a meeting or even just with a group sitting together, if there's something that has upset us, something that somebody said that sort of upsets us or watered our seeds of anger, we can join our paths, bow and say, please excuse me, I just would like to absent myself, be absent for a moment, like to go and do some walking meditation or get a cup of tea. And we can go out and practice walking meditation and take care of the anger that has arisen in us. So this practice is also very important in any kind of relationship. And maybe it's just a matter in your relationships to sort of bring this space within the relationships that when we're angry, we can just, withdraw for a moment. If we work in an office, if that still happens nowadays, most people work from home. I just read somewhere. We can just say, excuse me, I just need to, go to the bathroom or something. And we can breathe and take care of our anger and come back again more calm. It's not ourselves, we will benefit from that, but everybody else also. And by contemplating impermanence, we will be able to look with the eye of compassion at ourselves and others and recognize the preciousness of our relationships. And I think this is also good to look at the impermanence in general. When I look back at the previous generation, my previous generation, they have all already passed away. And it struck me that when, for instance, my grandfather, my grandmother passed away, yes, I miss them, but I also notice I have a regret. Maybe something I didn't do that I know would have made them happy, or maybe something I did that I realized did not make them so happy. And this actually has happened with every single person of the previous generation in my life that passed away. It was always something. And it took me a while to find peace with that. And I asked myself the question, okay, what would they like me to be? And every time I came to the answer, happy. Happy. And then I was able to accept what I had done or not done. And I thought, okay, I have learned something from this. And maybe when I look and I see I've learned something from that, so it's not gone to waste, that experience. And in the practice we speak of the goodness of suffering. Suffering becomes good when we learn something from it, when it enriches our life, when it helps us to go in a direction of healing and transformation. So looking at contemplating impermanence helps us to look at the eyes of compassion at ourselves and also at others. So we like to nourish our capacity of understanding, love, joy, and inclusiveness to transform our anger and help others to do the same with the practice of right diligence. And let us. So right diligence means taking care of the seeds we have and taking care of the money mental formations. And mental formation is a seed that manifests in our mind as a state of mind, if you like. And we may find that there are certain mental formations that are present more often than others. And we call them then habit energies. Habit energy of thinking, of speaking, and of acting. Let us, with the sound of the bell, take a moment to reflect, when we go back to ourselves, at some of our habit energies. Maybe a habit energy of thinking, can also be of speaking, or physical action. It can be a wholesome habit energy, and that's a habit energy that leads us in a direction of transformation and healing, or it can be what we would call an unwholesome habit energy, a habit energy that leads us in a direction of suffering, basically. So just let us go back to ourselves and just see which habit's energy comes up spontaneously. What kind of habit energy? So we may find that the habit energy that came up in us is one of our habitual ways of responding to life situations. I would like now to draw a diagram of the 4 right diligence that will help us to understand how to practice, or how to put these 4 practices or 4 diligences into practice. This makes it more interesting as when I just list them. You know, lists, we already have many. So this is the seeds. And this is also seed. And this is a mental formation, MF for short. And this also is mental formations. So a seed is a potential, and mental formation is when that potential manifests as a state of mind. Then we call it mental formation. So speaking of anger, we all have a seed of anger. And we would like to avoid that seed of anger manifested itself as a mental formation. because that then means that the energy of anger is really present in us. It's not pleasant for us, and very often not pleasant for others as well. So what to do, how to practice in order not to turn that seed of anger into a mental formation called anger. And then the Buddha says, easy. Do you have a garden at home? That's not what the Buddha said, but the Buddha could have said that. Do you have a garden at home? Have you ever sown seeds in your garden, wanting to have a lot of cosmos flowers? Yeah. Yes. Okay. So if you have those seeds of cosmos flower in the garden, what do you need to do in order to make it flourish? Have to water it. If you just put a seed in there and never water your garden, unless it rains, very unlikely you get the cosmos flower. In the garden, there is also maybe a seed of a weed, many weeds. Yeah. You don't want all those weeds to come up. Well, then don't water them. Yeah. So if we have here, let's say, we have a seed of anger in our garden, the garden of our mind. We like to sort of keep it for most of the time in seed form. It's okay, we don't mind the seeds at all, But we have to mind them, if you see what I mean. We have to take care of them, but we don't mind them being there. So, if we don't want our seed of anger to flower as a flower in the garden of our mind, to become a mental formation, we should not water it. And just in one word, we say avoid. Avoid. Avoid to water the seed of anger. Do not water. Do not water the seed of anger. But if accidentally we watered it anyway, or we allowed it to be watered by others, and the mental formation of anger comes up, so the flower of anger blooms in our mind, then most important thing is to stop watering that seed. If we don't water it, it will wilt, it will dry up, shrink. It will go back to seed form. Stop watering. Another word is overcome. Stop watering in Plum Village parlance. Stop watering the seed. Nothing can survive without food. And our anger will not survive if we stop feeding our anger. And we can stop feeding our anger by not always going back to what brought up our anger. Not to keep going back to that. We need to stop or break the contact with the source that triggered our anger. Don't stay in contact with that incident. Don't keep thinking, why did this person say that? Why did she or he say that? What was she trying to do? so mean. We keep on ruminating this thought over and over again. It means we keep on watering the seed of anger. I don't know if you've ever tried this ruminification. When we turn something over and over in our mind, especially since we're talking about anger, considering anger, maybe after 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 or half an hour of doing that, our anger has grown enormously. We've been watering it the whole time. It is like shooting the second arrow. We were shot by an arrow by somebody who said that hurt. Yeah? And then we keep repeating and reliving that incident. It's like shooting another arrow, and maybe another, and another, and another. And the second arrow is not twice as painful, it's 100 times more painful. So stop watering the seed. Break the contact. Yeah? Turn away. Turn away from the source that brought up your anger. As I said before, one way of doing that is to bring our mind home to our body, becoming aware of our body, aware of where anger manifests in our body and breathing with it. Yeah? And then when it's calmed down, we will feel much better. We can also practice something that we call change the CD. If we catch it in time, I have found if I sort of turn something over in my mind for 5-10 minutes, it's better for me to go back to my body and take care of the mental formation in that way, rather than trying to change the CD. Because I may go to another thought that is uplifting, joyful, but only for a few minutes, and then I'm pulled back again by the emotion. So the practice is to become aware, what is the best way for us, each individual, each and one of us, the best way to change the CD? Is it to bring up another thought? Think of something pleasant, something beautiful? Or is it to go back to the body? Or go for a walk, which is also going back to the body. Nourishing other things, getting different input through different sense organs. Change CD. Here, a Kalyana Mitra comes in handy. And actually the whole Sangha is a Kalyana Mitra. When we're upset about something and when we're angry, there's always something happening in the Sangha. There's always people who are around. They're doing things. We can go and join them, maybe working in the garden. And just by their joyful energy, it helps us to change the CD. Yeah. Or a good friend who will say, come on, let's go for a walk, let's have a cup of tea, change the CD. If we have I think I need to... No, now I see. I'm sorry. I knew something was not quite right. So, that's better. If we have a positive seed that we would like to strengthen, we encourage that seed to manifest itself by watering that seed. And the practice of mindfulness helps us here also to do this. We water our seeds of joy by being present in the present moment and recognize all the sources of joy that are present in our life. You may like to sit down, maybe with some others, and make a list of joys. What are your sources of joy in your life? And it can be something very small. Smile of another member of the community. I don't know if any one of you has seen the full moon these days. A wonderful source of joy. Beautiful. But the full moon can only be a source of joy if we are truly present. You know, the full moon may be there, but we need to be there in order to enjoy the full moon. I know this from experience. The full moon rises to the east of our hamlet, and there is a path in this hamlet where you walk, where the sisters walk, and we can see the rising moon. And I would often stand there when it's full moon and watch the full moon rising, especially because it's next to the bell tower and it looks so beautiful. You know. And one evening I was not present, being carried away by some mental formation, and I was walking towards our sister's building, walk right past the bell tower, and there was a sister standing there, and she said, "Sister, the full moon, look." And this is what happened. So let's say the full moon is there. Oh yes. And I continued to walk. You know, and she said, "Sister, the full moon. Look at the full moon." Because she has seen me standing there many times. You know, and I've told her, "Come and look at the full moon." And now I was walking straight by. And she had to call me a number of times that it sort of dawned on me, the full moon. So thank you. So I went back and enjoyed the full moon. And she really helped me with that to change the CD. You know? Here, because I was not in such a joyful mood, as you may have understood, she called me back and encouraged me, you know, to water a positive seed, the seed of joy and happiness. And she did. So truly a spiritual friend. So find ways to water the positive seeds, you know, so that they flower and they become a mental formation. And once they are a mental formation, then what do? So we're happy, we're joyful. The mental formation of joy has arisen. Everything is impermanent, you know? Everything comes and it goes. So joy can come and it can come and can be gone in the next second, unless you practice to keep it there. Our joy comes and goes, our anger comes and goes. And if we want our joy to stay, we have to nourish it. It is nourishing our joy that keeps it longer. To become aware of the source that has brought up our joy and stay in contact with that source. As long as we stay in contact with the source, our joy will increase. As long as I look at the full moon, that is watering the seeds of joy. Instant after instant. So, we maintain our joy, and concretely we continue to water by staying in contact. Continue to water our mental formation by staying in contact with the source. So this is basically the practice of right diligence. But, unwholesome seed, avoid watering. If accidentally they could water anyway, stop watering them. The wholesome seed, water them. They manifest, continue to water them. Simple, but it takes some practice. This practice is a practice of transformation. The unwholesome seeds will not have a chance to grow stronger. They may even weaken. And the wholesome seeds get a chance to grow stronger. So the unwholesome seeds will manifest less often, and the wholesome seeds will manifest more often. This is a very important practice in the light of taking care of our anger. At the same time, it is a very important practice in the light of just about everything. Nowadays, we hear a lot about depression. People say, I am in a depression, I'm depressed. Take this kind of overview and ask yourself, what kind of seed have I been watering in myself lately? Or what kind of seed have I allowed to be watered in me by others? And that's not just other people. Maybe it is the news. How often do we listen to the news? It's okay to listen to the news, or watch it, or read it, whatever we do nowadays. But what kind of seed does it water in us? How much can we take before we go towards a depression, for instance? And the way out is to stop watering those seeds and to start watering wholesome seeds, and then to continue to water wholesome seeds. With the help of a good friend, with the help of Kalyana Mitra, maybe with the help of a Sangha, we can do it. Maybe we can have a sound of the bell, and then before I continue to come to a close of this talk today. Right diligence is nourished by joy and interest, in the practice. And the 7 mindfulness training is dwelling happily in the present moment, and gives us very clear practices to do to dwell happily in the present moment and to water our seed of joy and happiness. So the 7 mindfulness trainings helps us to be aware that life is only available now. Yesterday, it's already past. Tomorrow, not yet there. Now is the only moment we have. And we like to really train ourselves to live deeply each moment of our life and not to lose ourselves in dispersion or be carried away by regrets about the past or the worries about the future or craving anger or jealousy in the present moment. And we take mindful breathing as our anchor. We always come back to a mindful breathing to know what is happening in the here and the now, so that we can be in touch with the wonderful, refreshing, and also the healing elements that are in the here and the now. We all know that nature is very healing. How often have we walked through nature while our mind was somewhere else, and we missed the opportunity to be healed by nature? Mother Earth is so beautiful. It's so, so beautiful. I have a photograph of Mother Earth, our jewel of the cosmos, as we call her. And just looking at that picture makes me so happy. I know we're doing terrible things to Mother Earth. And still, she is so loving and so embracing. And looking at this picture, makes me reflect, how can we live our life so as to take care of Mother Earth? Because she is the one that nourishes us, that holds us, that also embraces us. And we need to take care of our mother. And many of us, many of our Sangha members, are engaged in protecting Mother Earth. And here in Plum Village also, we were vegetarians. Now, as a community in a whole, we're vegan. Also because you want to contribute to protecting Mother Earth, protecting the species on Earth. We do our best to use our vehicles mindfully. That's why also in bigger retreats we order buses so everybody can come by bus, and not the friends who have come in individual cars come by their cars, but come by bus. We have happy farms in all 3 hamlets, and we are very happy to have happy farms. Great thank you to the happy farmers. We do things to protect Mother Earth. Little by little, we're going more and more as a big community in the direction of protecting Mother Earth. So we will come back to the present moment and water the seeds of joy, peace, love, and understanding in ourselves, so that our consciousness can transform and heal. And also, we like to become aware that real happiness basically depends on our mental attitude, and not necessarily on external conditions. And when we practice that, we see that we can live happily in the present moment, because we see we have already enough conditions to be happy. The mental attitude and not external conditions, it can be challenging. For instance, we may know people whom we are angry with and find it very difficult to overcome that anger. And we have a practice which is called the 5 ways of putting an end to anger, in which there's one sentence that keeps coming back. If you are angry and you are wise, you will know how to meditate to put an end to your anger. And it gives us 5 ways to look at the person we're angry with. It's that if someone's bodily actions are not kind, but their words are kind, then do not pay attention to their bodily action. Only pay attention to their words, and that can help you to put an end to your anger. And when their words are not kind, but the bodily actions are kind, if you're wise, you do not pay attention to the words, but only pay attention to the bodily action. It is recognizing that there's still the seed of kindness that is able to manifest itself in this person. And by recognizing that their words are kind, or in the other case their bodily actions are kind, you may be able also to interact with them in a way that waters that seed of kindness in them. So instead of focusing on the unkind, to focus on the kind. And to help them bring about a change within themselves. So, if the bodily actions are not kind and neither their words are kind, then we need to look a little bit deeper, and we may notice that there's still somewhere in the heart a little kindness. And then we are advised to pay attention to that little kindness and not to their words or action. And maybe also nourish that little kindness in them. And then you may all be waiting for the next one. If their bodily actions are not kind, their words are not kind, and you cannot find any ounce of kindness in their hearts, then what? Are we then allowed to get angry? No, the Buddha says, if you meet somebody whose words are not kind, whose actions are not kind, and whom you cannot find any kindness in their heart, then please know that that person is suffering deeply and they need your help. Find ways to help them. And I have looked into this time and time again. Whenever I come to this, I think, how is that possible? And I realized, and first I thought, okay, if there's no kindness in their words, actions, or in their heart, I need to find ways to help them, but they've caused a lot of suffering. Yeah. Until I realized, but by helping them, it doesn't mean that I condone what they did, said, or thought. I didn't condone any of their actions of body, speech, or mind. I just see that they must be suffering in order to cause so much suffering to others. And if we can help them, they may stop causing suffering with their words or deed, and they may find some goodness in their heart. It was very important for me to discover that, to come to that insight. Help. So you may have people in your life, there may be people in your country that you don't see any kindness in actions, speech, or maybe in their heart. Well, they need your help. Especially if it's someone who has a word to say about what happens in a country. They may need help. And Thai is a real great bodhisattva. I said before that the essence of the 14 mindfulness trainings, which are what we call bodhisattva trainings, is never to abandon anyone. Even if they cause great suffering. I shall never forget the 25th of September in 2001, when Thai gave a talk in a church in New York. And Thai was responding to the 9/11 event. The attack on the Trade Center, the World Center, yeah. On the buildings in New York, World Trade Center, I think is what's called. Yeah, correct? Yeah. First of all, I go back a little bit briefly. When we heard the news, we were in California, in a center, one of our centers in California, in Deer Park. So a number of our monastics went to Thai and said, Thai, this has happened. Can we do something? No, we have to speak out, we have to go, or we have to do a walking meditation, a protest march, or something like that. And Thai said, no. We're going to the beach. And we went, we go to the beach? You know? Yes, Thai, we're going to the beach, hire a bus, we're going to the beach, and we're bringing a picnic. So we went to the beach. And as we got to the beach, Thai said, go and play. It means go and wait in the water, play soccer, whatever. And the attendant spread out a mat for Thai, and Thai was lying down. And the whole time, as we were playing, Thai was just lying there, very quietly. And then we had lunch. And then we went back to the temple where we were staying. And then Thai called us together later and said, Thai will give a talk in New York, and Thai will address the issue. So this is how Thai came to address the issue in New York. And before Thai went up to address the issue, we were with Thai waiting, and Thai said, what Thai is going to say may put Thai's life in danger, but Thai has to say it. And in the speech, we started first by reading the invocation of Avalokita, invoking the energy of compassion of Avalokita. We chanted, and then Thai gave a speech. And the basic message was, Thai said, America has to ask Iraq, what did we do for you to do this to us? Thai was not abandoning anybody. Everything is because of causes and conditions. So a bodhisattva never abandons anyone. And we do not condone the act. We do not, somebody who causes suffering, condone the act. But we try to see how we can help them. And by saying what Thai say, Thai was to see, okay, what can we do? What are we doing? Tell us. To do this in our daily life, is a real practice of a bodhisattva, real practice of compassion for ourselves and for others. And we can do it with the help of a Kalyana Mitra. We can do it while practicing right diligence, to understand everything is because of causes and conditions. And compassion arises from understanding. If we have no understanding, compassion cannot arise. We can think we are compassionate, but if there's no understanding, we have to question whether that compassion is true compassion. Compassion is born from understanding. So we start with ourselves, we look at ourselves with the eyes of compassion, to understand why we think as we think, why we say what we say, why we do what we do. What seeds have we watered through our sense organs, our seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and above all also through our thinking. We may see something, but we will think as a response. And what is that thinking? What is it watering in us? And the foundation is to generate the energy of mindfulness throughout the day. By coming back to our breathing with the sound of the bell, bring our mind home to our body, and by walking meditation. Walking meditation is a practice I take refuge in to make my steps, walking meditation steps throughout the day. There are moments I forget, and then it may be the song of a bird, a sister, a brother, a sound that brings me back. And to touch the earth. As I said, when I see the picture of Mother Earth, I feel happy and I feel also a lot of care. So when I walk on Mother Earth, I really walk with gentleness and with gratitude for Mother Earth. And Thai says, walk as if you're caressing Mother Earth. And I found if I have that kind of, when we caress, it is very gentle. It doesn't go, with a bang we arrive on the earth and then we caress on the earth or on a cat or a beloved one. We even land on our beloved one gently, to caress gently, to land gently with our foot on the earth. The impact. When we hear somebody coming, by the sound of the footsteps, we can usually tell what the mood is. From school, when the teacher came, like, oh, we better sit up straight and concentrate, or it's okay, we hear. So the impact, to be aware of the impact between our foot and the earth, and to make it gentle, to walk with gentleness. And then I have noticed whatever the energy was before, when I start walking like that, there's an energy of care, of gentleness that comes up in me. And it feels wonderful. It is a very good way of practicing the 4 diligences, walking meditation. It's a good way to avoid, to overcome, to encourage, and to maintain. So we do not need to make time in the morning and the evening to have 20 minutes of sitting in between. We can practice mindfulness throughout the days by enjoying our steps. So thank you for listening. I will finish here, and we will have walking meditation, weather permitting, before too long. Thank you. I wish everybody a happy practice.